It was the moment that viewers were aware deep down was coming, that one moment when Christine was in her kitchen, her voice shaking, eyes full of distress, informing Cody that intimacy was off the table. That wasn't just a marriage collapsing. That was Christine drawing a line in the sand, following weeks of putting aside her own wants. It was the start of something greater than divorce. It was her finally making up her mind. Hi guys, I'm Aria. Welcome to TLC's Next Reveal. If you've been watching Sister Wives since the very beginning, or even just become a fan just recently in the last few weeks, you already know this show is not all about plural marriage. It's about power identity and the quiet battles happening behind closed doors. If you're here for the real talk, the real feelings and the straight-up truth about what's really going down in this family, you're in the right place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like and let me know in the comments. Did you see Christine's exit coming, or were you just as surprised as the rest of us today? We're looking into one of the most unforgettable reality TV flips, Christine Brown's quiet rebellion that turned into a public makeover. For years, viewers witnessed her smile through being overlooked. We witnessed the pain behind her eyes, the way her voice cracked every time she attempted to justify her place in a marriage that did not notice her. But now everything has changed. She's no longer seeking space in someone else's life. She's creating space for herself. And truthfully, it's one of the strongest changes we've ever seen on this show. Let's talk about how she got there. When Christine first appeared on Sister Wives, she was like sunshine. There was this young twinkle in her eyes, a strong sense of conviction that she was something greater, something holy. Back then, she wasn't just another wife in a plural marriage. She was the one who made the decision, as opposed to the other women who had doubts or hesitations. Christine was Ellen. She believed in the principle, in the bond, in the shared love that plural marriage was alleged to produce. She even told in the course of those initial interviews that she wanted to be the third wife. She liked the idea of a crazy household with a lot of children and sister wives. But what she didn't know then, what she would find out the hard way, was how lonely that role could become. In those early seasons, it was easy to ignore the warning signs. Christine was often shown cooking for everyone, helping with kids, laughing in the background. She was the fun wife, the one who lightened things up. But as the seasons went on, the cracks in that ideal family facade began to show. Christine didn't feel left out. She felt left out when the family moved to Flagstaff and Cody started spending more and more time with Robin. Christine wasn't afraid of showing how invisible she felt. In one episode, she wept, discussing feeling like a basement wife. That description cut deep. It wasn't physically about space, it was emotionally. She wasn't important. She wasn't being saw. There was that gut-wrenching moment when Christine admitted that she had begged for attention, begged to be desired in her own marriage. And what did she get back? Space excuses. A husband who never actually showed up for her, the way he did for another woman. She waited years hoping things would get better. But little by little, her hope turned to heartache, and the woman who had once promoted plural marriage started to realize she was being left in her own story. Season 16 of Sister Wives wasn't just dramatic, it was heartbreaking. It was the season where all Christine had been holding her nose through for years came flooding to the surface, and we as spectators felt every bit of it. By the time we saw her slowly packing up Cody's things from her garage, we knew that this wasn't a temporary battle or another heartwarming episode that would be swept away by family counseling. This was final. The way she ironed his shirts, taped boxes up, and hauled them out by herself. It was symbolic. She wasn't just clearing out a closet. She was closing a book on her own terms. But what hit harder were the confessionals. Christine didn't scream. She didn't throw things or make a show of it for the cameras. She sat there dignified but broken and told the truth. She said she felt betrayed. She said she had been heartbroken for years, and at one of the most gut-punching moments of the whole series, she admitted that she couldn't keep pretending things were fine when they weren't. She said, "I don't want to be married to Cody anymore." And the way she said it, it wasn't bitter, it was tired. It was genuine. Then there was that chat, the moment that would become one of the most rewatched moments of the season. Cody told Dean that intimacy was not an option. That was it. That was the final straw after 25 years. 6 children and decades of sacrifices that off long before he ever owned up to it. Out loud, the responses rained and viewers were emotional. Some cried as she cried, others were angry on her behalf, remembering all the years she'd remained quiet. But above all, people finally saw Christine, not as a background player, but as a woman who was done at the expense of herself, just to keep a dysfunctional family together. That moment was not merely her breaking point. It was her wake-up call. Christine's departure from Arizona was not a sudden one. It had taken years in the making. You could see it in her eyes, in the way that she glanced around their home, at the life she had worked and sacrificed, for only to find it was no longer the life she wanted when she finally decided the choice to go back to Utah. It wasn't a physical move. It was a statement of reclaiming her happiness. It was about choosing for herself, instead of the chaos that had been her marriage to Cody and her place in the family. But the most emotional part of that decision came when she had the talk with her youngest daughter. Really just a little girl. Looked up at her mom with a mix of confusion and hurting. Christine, fighting back tears, told her that they were going to start a new life in Utah. "We're going to be okay," she reassured truly, trying to steady her own emotions as much as she was trying to reassure her daughter's fears. It was heartbreaking to see, especially with the knowledge of how much Christine had been carrying on her own, yet still putting her daughter's needs above all. Then there was the tearful goodbye with the other wives that moment. Those final hugs felt like the true end of an era. Christine, who was always the peacemaker, the one who attempted to hold everything together, was actually walking away. The others, especially Janelle, appeared to understand, but there was so much left unspoken in those farewells. It wasn't just a move in geography. It was the end of the family dynamic that had dictated their lives for so long. The emotional weight of it all was apparent. This wasn't just in terms of moving out of a house or estate. This was about freeing herself from the oppressive patterns that had kept Christine from being able to live for herself. After that, we started seeing less and less of Christine at the family gatherings. Her presence was there. It wasn't the physical absence. It was like the air had altered, and it was very clear that Christine was reclaiming her life, her independence. She was no longer a wife fighting for Cody's time, or a woman trapped in a marriage that made her feel invisible. She was, for the first time in a long time, Christine, the woman who was committed to making herself a priority. Christine's change over to love after escaping Cody was more than a page in her life. It was a do-over from scratch. In 2022, fans saw their first glimpse of Christine's happiness for the first time when she brought David Woolley into the world through a beautiful post on Instagram. She posted a photo of herself strolling hand in hand with David, smiling bigger than we'd ever seen her in years. This was a woman who was ready to open herself up to something new, something real, and something that was just for her. David, a man who had appeared to have the support and stability Christine had felt she needed, seemed to be everything. Cody wasn't kind, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in making Christine feel appreciated. The difference in her energy was almost tangible. After so long a while, Christine's social media posts radiated joy and assurance. There was a feeling of freedom in her smile, a twinkle that had not been around for years. Her followers were over the moon about her, not only because she was moving on, but because they could tell just how much this new romance meant to her. Then in 2023, the day of reckoning finally arrived. Christine and David wedded. The wedding was intimate with love and warm, and you could look at how incredibly different Christine was. There was no longer any trace of the sadness and exhaustion that had defined her years with Cody. She was radiant, glowing with a joy she hadn't experienced in so long. This wasn't a wedding of duty or compromise. It was a wedding of choice. Christine was marrying the man who loved her and made her feel loved and respected, and it was clear that this was her new beginning. But it wasn't just her love life. That flourishing Christine's Utah residence was a reflection of her fresh start. The warm, welcoming place was hers, to create a space in which she could finally live on her own terms. She began exploring new business ventures, including her e-commerce venture, where she wrote about her experience and connected with fans on a more personal level. Watching her grow, both as an individual and as a pro, has been inspiring, and it's clear that Christine is flourishing in things she could never do in her old life. The joy she exuded wasn't just in her status or on her wedding day. It was in everything that she did. Fans couldn't help but feel that they were seeing someone who had been held back for so long now, finally stepping into her own light. And it wasn't just about the relationship with David. It was about Christine regaining her voice, once more taking control of her happiness back, and living life the way she had always deserved. Christine's makeover didn't stop there at her love life. It also extended to her working life as well. Once she had left Cody and the polygamous lifestyle behind, Christine came out into a whole new persona. She wasn't just the wife of a polygamist anymore. She was a businesswoman, an influencer, and a woman with full authority over her future. Christine started building her rental property empire with her new freedom to invest in property. She began as a landlord and flipped houses and leased property. It was the perfect fit for her, an empowering means of creating something secure, but at the same time, it provided her with the ability to live life on her own terms. The business venture enabled her to indulge in her entrepreneurial nature, and it was clear that she was making progress towards establishing her financial future in a manner that she could not have done when she was with Cody. But it wasn't just real estate that Christine was venturing onto her Instagram, where previously there was a place for sharing moments of family. There was now a stage for brand collaborations and promo relationships. Christine worked with supplement businesses, selling wellness products that aligned with her new focus on health and self-care. Her posts revealed her new appearance, active, vibrant, and unapologetically. Her fans were loving her candor, and her brand deals only served to feed that connection. It wasn't about promoting products. It was about sharing what worked for her. And fans couldn't help but look up to how she was making her passion work into a successful venture. Christine's development as a businesswoman was also seen in her increasing distance from the Sister Wives show as she embraced her new life. Her involvement in the family reunions decreased. She was getting out of the shade of the show and creating a name for herself beyond the boundaries of her former life. It wasn't a bitter departure, but rather a choice, a deliberate choice to depart and grow. Her fans were with her every step of the way, willing to see her flourishing in a manner they hadn't expected. It was clear that Christine was not merely a show figure on reality any longer. She was a woman firmly in control of her destiny. As Christine embraced her new life, Cody found himself crumbling in a manner impossible to ignore. The ripple effect of her leaving was a burden he couldn't escape. During the intense scenes of Sister Wives, seasons 18 and 19, viewers saw Cody trying to deal with the repercussions. He was no longer the rough, tough, in charge guy that he thought he was. The cracks in his machismo became more apparent in season 18. Cody openly spoke in confessionals, and for the first time, he felt guilty over the way things had gone with Christine. It wasn't easy for him to admit. but the pain of losing her was unavoidable. He took responsibility for having let her down. The affair that at one time had seemed as though it would last forever had fallen apart, and Cody was left with the knowledge that he hadn't appreciated Christine as much as she warranted. His regret did not stop there by season 19. His attitude towards Robin shifted, and it was clear that things were turning ugly even within their affair. Whereas Robin had been his emotional rock and his major concern, the stress of everything began to show. There were moments when Cody was clearly frustrated, no longer able to hold it together as he once did. But maybe the most pitiful moments were when Cody tried to reconnect with his children, particularly with his sons. The effort to mend fences with his children appeared forced, and it hurt to watch him struggle. The reality that his family was disintegrating alone in front of his eyes hit him hard. Christine's departure left him not just with an empty house, but with a painful sense of loss that he could not hide. No matter how much he tried, fans could see that Cody was out of control, and his attempts to regain what he had lost seemed like a desperate grasp at a life that had long passed her by. Christine's life took another dramatic turn when she published her memoir in 2023. It wasn't just another article of news. It was an empowered declaration. Christine wasn't just the polygamist wife from Sister Wives any longer. She was reclaiming her narrative, laying the groundwork for a deeper examination of her life and experiences in an open-hearted social media update. Christine teased fans with a glimpse at her soon-to-be published book. For the first time, her voice would be the one to tell her story, without the veil of the cameras or the producers controlling the narrative. The announcement sent shockwaves through her fan base, with many waiting in anticipation for the release of the memoir. What would Christine have to share about her time in the family? What was it actually like behind the scenes, where viewers were only being shown a fraction of the truth? This book would give fans the answers they'd been waiting for, sharing her unfiltered opinion on everything: her childhood, her early years with Cody, the struggles of polygamy, and the heartache that she had endured in marriage. Christine's book was a departure from independence. For far too long, she had been with the Sister Wives movement, but now she didn't need that to be heard. She had built a life outside of television, one in which her voice belonged to her, and her story could now be shared on her own terms. Fans couldn't wait to hear her perspective, to see the woman who had spent so decades of being neglected and underestimated, and to observe how far she had traveled in getting on top of her life. The memoir was not simply a novel, it was Christine's last statement, and supporters knew it would be as tough and sincere as the lady herself. Christine's parting the Brown family drama wasn't merely a breakup, it was a resurrection. She decided for herself. Finally, she escaped the dysfunction, the mind games, and the constant emotional roller coaster that had defined her life for so long. In doing so, she didn't simply leave Cody. She left an entire chapter of her life behind that no longer benefited her, and that, my friends, tells volumes. Christine is no longer involved with the Sister Wives drama, and that speaks to her strength and the clarity that she's found within herself. She's not surviving anymore. She's thriving now as she's creating her new life, her family, her career, and her passion with David. She's teaching us it's never too late to start again, to reclaim your happiness, and to truly live the life you deserve. And although Sister Wives will continue on without her, the narrative of Christine's life is by no means complete. So here's the question for you. Do you believe Christine will ever be back? Will she be back on the show somehow? Or is she done with that chapter for good? I'd love to get your thoughts, so be sure to leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more of the latest updates on all things Sister Wives. You won't want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching.